All right, I'm going to try to record the process of adding these little joint bars, these Detail West joint bars to the track. So there's a number of materials that I'm using. I've got a small flathead screwdriver. I've got my flexible ruler here, and I've marked on here 39 feet from zero down there, so I can be at least semi-accurate. I'm using just a cheapo razor knife here, and I'm using a hobby saw that you would typically use to cut either plastic or metal with these fine teeth blades. And I'm also using Gorilla Super Glue. I don't think it really matters what super glue works. I definitely prefer gel. I think it doesn't dry quite as quickly, and it's a little easier to work with to get it onto a particular space before it sets, but that's just personal opinion. And then I also have just a wood block here with some toothpicks. I'll put the gel on the block and then use the toothpick to apply it so we're not getting it everywhere. And I guess that's about it. Oh, and I also have just some nippers here to cut these free. So I'm going to try to get as much of this on camera just to do a single one as I can. And I apologize if there's parts where you can't see. This is just kind of difficult to do on camera, but I thought I would give it a try. I've always wanted to try these things as soon as I found out about them. And if you haven't figured that out about me by now, for those that have been watching my channel, I do like to try new things, especially kind of gimmicks and whatnot, just because they're kind of neat to, try and see how they look, how they act, whatever. And now I'm just trying to cut some of the flashing off here. So we have some square ends. I know it's not focusing very well, but anyway, so I got my part cut out. Now I'm going to measure my 39 feet from my previous bar. And I go ahead and cut a small slit in the top of the rail just to represent the actual joint. I do that first so that I know how to center the joint bar, because there is a centering, gap or mark on the joint bar, so you can see where it goes. Now with this razor knife, I'm just kind of cutting just a mark, and then I'll come back with the hobby blade and make it a little more pronounced. Unless you make a big mess. You could do this with a Dremel, but I think it would make the gap too big. And anyway, you're not trying to actually make a serious gap. You're just trying to make a mark that looks like where two rails meet. That's good enough. Now, I'm using the hobby knife. These joint bars are a little bit too tall, I think, for Code 70 rail, which is what I'm working with. So you have to cut the spike heads off for it to fit. And it looks like there's only one here in the middle that I'm going to have to remove. So I just kind of flip that off there, so there's no plastic showing. And then I'll take my glue, which I have to apply some more because it does dry fairly quickly. And I'll just put a little dab on here. In theory. I don't know if you can see any of that. You just got to find the mark. I try to get plenty of glue on here because it does take a little bit to get this piece centered. And these joint bars do have a top and a bottom. On the back, there's kind of a thicker part, and as far as I can tell, that goes on the bottom. Now I'll use my little flathead screwdriver to center it on that cut as best I can. I think that's got it. Let's take a look. Focus, focus, focus. Sort of. I don't know if you can see the cut very well. Anyway, that's what it looks like applied. Pretty happy with that. And I've done a whole string of them on at least one side of the rail. I am going to do both sides of the rail. And I'm doing this before paint for obvious gluing reasons, but I will be painting the rails. And I'll be doing both sides. So I was going to put a backdrop on this thing. I still will, but I'm going to do as much detail work as I can before I do that. And then I'm going to make sure it's, removable, because I haven't decided yet if I want this scene to be fully viewable on a 360-degree basis. But for just working on its sake, it'll be a lot easier without a backdrop on it. So I'll just make it removable so I can do things like this. But anyway, that's how I applied joint bars on my Code 70 HO scale track. I wanted to follow up really quick with how the joint bars look painted, and with the camera zoomed in, it's a little bit easier to see those. So it's just going to pan across here. I'm just using a Testors rust color to paint the rails and the joint bars. And with the camera zoomed in, it seems to focus a little bit better so you can see the detail. Once you paint them, it does bring out the bolt details much better. As you can see, all those little knobs there. So that really helps out a lot. And there's a reason there's silver there, is I haven't painted that side yet. But I'm really happy with how these look. I think I will be using these on the regular layout as I move forward. I'm not worried about adding these after rail is painted. I don't think the super glue is going to have any problem with that, but very happy with the detail here. And for the minimal cost and effort, it is going to take a lot of time to add these every 39 scale feet on a layout, but I think the detail's worth it, and I think you can see it, especially in photos, if you figure that this is going to be, the typical shot with a rail car up there. You know what? Let's go ahead and put one on there to see how that looks. So there's the sort of complete look. It would look better, obviously, with ballast, but otherwise not too bad. You can still see it with cars sitting on the track. Just a neat little detail to add. Anyway, that's about it. I won't talk about it anymore. Thanks for watching.